do not touch, do not leer, do not look. I'm like, okay.
Do not leer.
But they do. They're
If
all
you
like
have to have a sign for
anti-touching.
that, you've got a problem.
Hi everyone, welcome to Behind the Booth. I'm Jade, and with me as always is my co-host and award-winning producer, Heather.
And on this channel, we talk about wild stories from Comic-Con vendors. And we are coming up on a lot of conventions. I mean, this will be like late spring, early summer. So which ones do we have coming up?
Oh my gosh. So we have Cleveland, we have MegaCon, and we have Amazing Con in Las Vegas.
Oh my gosh, it's going to be amazing. And we have a ton coming up in summer too, but we'll talk about those later. Right now, we are talking about, oh crap, what are we talking about?
Be seen.
Yeah, I totally remember that. Oh my gosh. So one of our mentors that we have together, one of his huge things is saying, be seen, be safe, be relevant. And that is, has become a huge part in how we both run our businesses. But the first part, be seen, we've really taken to heart with the booth that Jade has. So Jade, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so the Be Seen, Be Safe, Be Relevant is a part of Gary Barnes' international trademark. So don't take that. Somebody already tried.
We're not stealing it from him.
Yeah.
we're just in gratitude, Gary.
But the first concept of Be Seen is more about, do people even know you exist? Do people even know you're there? Because you can't sell anything if people don't know you're even alive. So one of the things that I did with my booth, because everything is tactile and sensory friendly, is I made a sign. And I literally have this behind my little cash register, and I hold it up to people and I do this. And I follow them with it too, like if they're walking by. And it literally says, yes, you can touch. And I actually had to make this in Canva because I looked for a sign that said, yes, you can touch. They don't fucking exist. It's always do not touch, do not leer, do not look. I'm like, okay.
Do not leer.
But they do. They're all like anti-touching.
For that, you've got a problem.
I made this one. I'm going to redesign it so it's a little bit bigger, but I get one of two responses. I get people that go, ooh, I'm going to go touch it. Or I have people that they'll at least laugh and wave at me and keep walking. So either way, they're seeing that I'm there. Mm-hmm. There are, the 4 different personality types in sales. There's a whole methodology that goes into that. And I definitely will not, jump into that today. But the basic idea is that there's just a couple of different personality types that either want to touch things, or they are like, I just want to get close and see what's going on. I'm curious, or they want nothing to do with you. And then the fourth is they're kind of there for other people. So if someone else wants to touch, they'll go with them. Mm-hmm. So either way, I'm hitting, those people and they know that I'm here. Mm-hmm. And when I talk about sensory stuff, I actually have one here that I can show. I'll pick the pink one because it'll look good on camera. So I have these little Zen gardens that I made, and I put a little koi fish in them, like these. And then I put a scented lavender or orange or whatever. And I have these open that people can come by and touch. And they it's so funny because people do it one of two ways. They either kind of prod it like this, so they'll be like, bam! There's no
they'll chunk it all out. They'll just grab it and you're like, oh, okay.
They'll, play with it. And it's encouraged because I want people to interact with me. The other thing I have, this is my little guy. So I have these little tactile squishy buddies. And this is Octopus. This is my favorite. And he's all sparkly. And he's like, hey, what up, Octopus? And he's got a little suction cup at the bottom. Makes me happy. But I mean, I have a bunch of these that people can touch. I've got glow in the dark bracelets. Nothing on my table is not okay to touch. And so when I'm like, yeah, you can touch. Yeah. That's part of the pitch. Yes, you can touch. And then I'm like, anything on the table is to get closer. And when I started doing that, my sales went up by about 500%. And I know this because I kept track. So it was one of the things that Gary recommended to me was to keep track of how many interactions I have versus sales. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a math person. I know maybe a lot of you out there are not math people, and those who are math people, you're going to have a great time with this algorithm. Basically, it didn't matter how much they purchased, just that they made a purchase. Mm-hmm. And then it didn't matter if they came back as a return customer, you still counted them as a purchase. and you counted them as an interaction. So if they didn't buy something the second time, that's okay. It's just kind of getting analytics, and you can tell your sales rate on what you have. So I keep track of my sales rate. I did it really like hardcore when I was first starting out to see what I was doing. When I tried different stuff, did it change? What days are you busiest? That is huge to know, because you need to know when you need help. You need to know when you can take a pee break, or if you have to bring your lunch that day. Like, that stuff's all super important. So the be seen, that was part one.
Yeah. Well, and you will notice when you're at these conventions, people are walking around, they're seeing all kinds of stuff, right? Like, there's vendors all over the place. They're going to see, not comedians, celebrities. They're going to see celebrities. Maybe some of them are comedians. They're going to do all this stuff. They're just all walking around. So they start to get this glazed look over their eyes. And I have noticed that when you have those signs, like, we'll see people just kind of walk past. They may not look like they're going to our booth, but their gaze is that way. You hold up the sign, it makes them giggle. And then they come over. Like, it's just that little snap, like, hey, oh, that was interesting. That kind of broke me out of my trance for a minute, because there's a lot going on. And even for people who don't have like sensory issues or anything like that, it's a lot of intake. And so for something to just kind of like give them permission to, I don't know, to pay attention instead of like, oh my gosh, there's so much, I don't even know what to look at. Okay, look at this. And that's what those signs are really for. And it helps a lot. And especially with families with kids, because like you said, all those signs are being made. No, don't touch, don't leer. Like, all those signs are the ones that are being made, especially with people that have collectibles or breakable stuff, you know, and there's tons of kids around. You don't want them throwing stuff around. Obviously, we still don't want them throwing it around, but those little squishies aren't going to get hurt if you do. So like, it's much more of a, an invitation to be like, hey, yeah, your kids can actually come and like, you know, check this out, and you can too. And it really helps a lot of people to be able to have that permission, I think.
Well, and it makes me laugh too, because, hold on one second. Ray can decide if she wants to lay down. It really helps too, because it rewards people for reading, which you don't get a lot of. And like she was saying, it breaks the pattern. You know, you see all these things and you have somebody kind of like holding a sign up to you and smiling at you. I don't even have to stand up. I just sit behind my booth and do that, and it's cute. But I did learn that only a certain age of children can read. So I have to start telling the younger ones that, yes, it's okay, you can touch. Because I would hold up a sign and I'd be like, it's okay, it's okay. And they're like, they just stare at me because they can't read it.
What is she saying? What's okay?
And so then it's a teaching moment for some parents. Parents will say like, yes, it says, yes, you can touch. And it's really cool. And then sometimes kids will run up and the parents are chasing like, no, don't touch anything. They're like, but she said I can. I read her sign. Yeah. And they like point at the sign. And then it has to come down to, sometimes the parents say, well, you need to ask me before you touch. Or some parents are like, go have fun. And I say, it's okay with me if it's okay with you.
Yeah. Which is that's a good rule of thumb, especially if you're if you're ever dealing with children, like, be sure, like, okay, is your parent, is your guardian okay with what you're doing? Then it's, you know, you have my permission, but you need theirs, like, whatever it is.
Yeah. And sometimes they'll see stuff and touch stuff and they want to go show their parent, and they'll just like wander right off. And I'm like, okay, bye. I'll come back. And the parents are just like, where did you get that? Where did you see this whole conversation? Yeah.
And then they see us over like, there with our eyes all big, and we're like, hi.
They're like, you can't take stuff. You can't take stuff from people's tables.
Well, and also like kids, they don't even know, like they don't understand that, you know, it possibly costs something, or that like them walking away from our table means not that they're stealing, but that, you know, that you shouldn't do that. They don't know that. And so they're just like, I'm showing mom so she can go pay for it. Like, who knows? Yes. Like, then the parents are like,
it's so cool. Like, I had a little axolotl squishy, and this kid was like, oh my God, my sister loves these, and grabbed it and just fucked right off down the hall. And then they came back and she had like an axolotl hat on and a shirt. And I was like, oh, I get it. But I was like, okay, I guess they're gone. Like, I'm not going to take down a 4-year-old, like drop kick them in the middle of the aisle. Like, please don't come up to our booth and take things. Nothing at our booth is free. But she was just so excited. And I'm like, okay, bye. It's like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. But that's what's funny is I'll get a lot of kids that come up and they'll be like, are these free? And I have signs everywhere that say how much they are. And so instead of using the language of like, it costs this much or any of that, like how we would speak to adults, I say like, well, there's a $3 adoption fee. Or, I make it cute, right?
Yeah.
And I use my numbers like with my hands for those of you. Now that I remember that this podcast is also listened to, I need to describe what I'm doing. So I hold my fingers up for how much it is. And this actually helped me when I was doing stuff with Ukraine or in languages that I don't know all the numbers for. I know some of my main ones like Piat is 5, but I also hold up my hand and they're like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, got it. And they'll do that. Like because I do have that number dyslexia. I don't always memorize numbers correctly in other languages. And so I'm like, I think I got it right. I'm like, hold on. I'm like, it's this one. And I have this habit of doing the German 3 for those of you who are aware of the German 3.
She has her thumb and the first fingers. Yeah.
Thumb and like peace sign, but adding the thumb. And this became really well known and popular from that Tarantino movie, Inglourious Bastards. Oh, they make a big scene out of that. And what's funny is when I was watching the movie, I'm like, oh, fuck. I'm like, he so gave himself away. So that was kind of fun to watch. But yeah, I do that because that's just what I learned as a kid. So, but I get them backwards when I need to be like 8. I was like, hold on. I can't get it right. So part 2 of the Be Seen is a lot of vendors will kind of look like what I look like right now, which again, for those of you listening, it's a t-shirt and like basic bitch makeup, and there's nothing really special about me.
It is a Baby Yoda t-shirt, but we're at a Comic-Con, so everybody's wearing nerdy stuff.
Oh yeah. This does not separate myself out at all. Actually, mine's considered very mild. But what I do have, these are super cute, is I wear fox ears.
She has fluffy little fox ears. They're like red around the edges and white in the middle. They're super fluffy too. They're really soft.
Yes, they're super soft. And people will say things like, I love your ears. I'm like, do you want to touch them? And they're like, okay. Like, I've yet to have somebody say no. And then I wear little like padded gloves because I wave at people all the time. So I'll wave and they have this bright pink like toe bean pattern on them.
And they're raised so you can like squish them.
And kids will wave back to you. Kids will always wave. It's awesome. Yeah. And so I have, that situation going on. And then I wear the kimono and then the bright makeup that I got from MAC, not a sponsor, but
MAC, if you want to sponsor us, please email us at talkbehindthebooth@gmail.com. We would love for you to be our sponsor. Okay, and we're gonna do that, guys, every single time.
If you want us to stop, visit our Patreon page and start giving us some Patreon, or find us a sponsor.
That's right.
That works. So anyways, with the ears is a big thing. People talk to me. Any reason that people can get to talk to you is really huge at the booth. Yeah. And so with all that put together, and I'll have Heather put in a picture of this for the video, or you can visit any of my social media. I'm always wearing them. Mm-hmm. It's one more way to make myself different. So, and the whole philosophy of the Be Seen, Be Safe, Be Relevant. The safe part is that I am dealing with children and I want them to not think I'm going to like be mean to them or yell at them or cook them or something, like that's what they teach in Hansel and Gretel. Like that's the story behind Hansel and Gretel, right?
Yeah, I know.
Don't trust strangers and then you don't get eaten. Like, that made more sense in my head. But the point is that, not being creepy to these kids and being like, yeah, you can touch them. And my booth is so bright and beautiful.
Yeah.
Like it's got different colors and shades and everything is so like, hey, what's up? And everything says you can touch. So that won't work for every booth, but what it does do is look at who's around you and look at how you can be different and still be authentic to yourself.
Yep. And what your booth really is for, because if you are selling collectibles, if it is stuff that people can't touch, maybe try to find something that they can, or find something else that will set you apart from that. Because everybody around, they're not all selling the same thing you are, of course. If you're going to have a booth, you're going to have your own spin on it. You're going to have your own thing going on, and it's going to be fantastic. And we hoped you all have booths at some point, but like, you need to stand out in some way, and you will, because you're you, and you got to lean into that.
Yeah. And even things that you see a lot of, like Funko Pops is one that you see a lot around places. One of our across the aisle neighbors, to make his Funko Pop thing different, is he actually had celebrities inside his booth signing photos. And, you know, like Patty from the Peanuts was there. And so she was doing photos and signing things. And that was just one more reason to get people there. It has nothing to do with Funko Pops, but it's an interaction. So get those interactions.
It got them there. It got them like distracted enough to be like, oh, hey, look at all those Funko Pops.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's how that works is just how to engage with people, because that's actually what makes you different and special. And you can't look at people like they're money bags walking around. You have to look at them as like actual people. And I've talked to a lot of vendors that if they can't make the sale in the first 5 to 10 seconds, they ignore the person. I was like, why?
Yeah,
they're like, they're not going to buy anything. I'm like, but they're here for an experience. So I'm going to be part of that.
Yep. So yeah, just remember, be yourself, find what makes you different, because there is something that makes you unique and fantastic, and make your booth that way, make it welcoming, I mean, it doesn't even have to be welcoming. What if you're selling a bunch of like horror movie stuff? Like make it creepy, make it whatever you need it to be, but be sure to be seen.
A special thank you to Nerdy Girl Podcast for sponsoring this episode. We'll see you next time.